Hi, I'm Emily Howarth. I am from just outside Philadelphia, born and raised for 38 years, and was just recently imported to Durham, North Carolina. I'm a lifelong learner, and my current subject I'm very interested in hyper focusing on and going down a research rabbit hole is ADHD because I was newly diagnosed and I'm finding out that that is a huge part of who I am and how I show up in the world. And I'm ready to tap into those superpowers. So I'm also an advocate. I'm standing up as a neurodivergent and mental health advocate.
We both just got back like 2 days ago from our first international conference on ADHD. And that's where
This
you and I
was your
met.
first too?
Yes, it
Oh,
was. So I think you and I actually are probably within the same time frame of being diagnosed. It's just it was about a year and a half ago. It'll be 2 years in January for me. So we met in Dallas at the conference, and you walked up to a colleague of mine. So this podcast is produced in partnership with ADHD Online, and I don't know the exact line, but you said something along to the effect of "You guys saved my life," referencing ADHD Online, and it was so powerful to me because I think we have a really hard time as people who were diagnosed later in life with describing the magnitude of it.
mm-hmm,
And to hear you say that, and I know that there's so much more to that,
mm-hmm.
but I just want to say, you mentioned you're an advocate, and I have to tell you that the energy you put out and the positivity and the just light. You're one of those people that you meet and you immediately feel like, oh, this is someone I could get coffee with, or I could grab a drink with, or I could have like an immense heart to heart with and feel very supported. And I come from a background of having been bullied by women, and having female friendships is so hard because it is just such a messy playing field. And it was just very refreshing. So I just want to start by sharing that with you because I think it's so important for us to really be lifting each other up, because sometimes that's the only place it's coming from.
Lift as we climb. That is not an Emily quote. That is from my company, Women's Leadership Summit a few years ago. But I wholeheartedly believe in it. Thank you, new best friend. I feel the same way about you. I walked up to the ADHD Online table and said thank you and told a little bit of my story. And we got introduced, and I am so excited to have met you and for you to be giving me an opportunity to have a platform to tell my story. I really believe in. I'm going to be cheesy again and leverage another catchphrase that's not my own. I really believe in the strength in connection, right? That was the theme of this year's ADHD 2022 International Conference. And the strength in human connection that I feel when I open my mouth um, and people relate and we share commonalities and we realize we're not alone. Um, I see it changing the world. So I have ADHD, and that means I talk excessively, and I am not going to stop.
I love it. So I will just lead the conversation then.
Yes,
And
please.
I want to go back. And I say I want to go back to what led you to seek out an ADHD diagnosis. And I think that, like many people who are diagnosed later in life, there's a lot that comes before that. So
Mm-hmm.
you start your story, and I'll give you a little signal when I'm about to jump in, and
Perfect.
love it. Let's go.
All right. So it was a Wednesday morning, October 10th, 1984. No, that's for another day. Yeah, my story, it did start from the beginning, right? I struggled throughout my whole life, just academically, um, and I didn't always have support. One thing that I learned about ADHD and about myself and how I show up is um, with girls and women, there's the internalization of problems. And there's the internal problem solver in us. So I'm looking back now and thinking about that little girl sitting in that classroom having all these issues and not speaking up to the teachers, not going home and asking for help from my parents, just feeling like I have to fix it all on my own. So that lasted for 37 years. And I bopped around a lot during that time, either academically or professionally or geographically within a few counties of just outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Um, and I never found a place in the world. Never found a place in the world, but I kept trying. So um, I went through some of my own traumatic experiences, and it wasn't until 2012 when we lost someone very near and dear to me to suicide that I sought out therapy for myself for the first time. It wasn't easy and it didn't work because I didn't know how to talk about my emotions. So I didn't continue, even though I had gone through a really, really hard time. So I started and stopped therapy. I don't even know how many times from 2012 through today. Still trying to find a therapist. If you're out there, hit me up. Um, and I was on medication for a little bit after everything that happened in 2012. Um, Met with just like my general practitioner and got on something for depression. So that was my treatment. I was on like 10 milligrams of Celexa and uh, just out living my life trying to do the best I can, but it was hard. Um, and I have a lot of strength and I have a lot of resiliency, and I kept trying and trying and hitting roadblocks. And finally, you know, one day I'm sitting there and I'm trying to point to all the things that are my anxiety triggers, trying to figure it out. I just want to unlock what that answer is because knowledge is power, and if I know, then I can do something about it. So I that particular day I pointed to my wife and said, maybe it's you. I don't know. I've tried everything else. Maybe it's you. Let me take a little breather here. Let me go check into an Airbnb and just get some time for me to think without any distractions. And it was a really lovely day, honestly. Just listening to music and taking in the nature all around me and just kind of decompressing. And then I was getting ready for bed and I was taking my belt off, and just the flood of hopelessness took over me, and um, impulsivity took over me. And even though I have lost several very important people in my life to suicide, I found myself in that position. I found myself so hopeless because I didn't fit in and I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't all these things. I attempted to end my own life. And that was June 16th, 2021. And thankfully, um, it didn't work. I got out of it. And I reached out for help. I called the suicide hotline. I got put on hold. I called uh, a friend and they weren't available. I reached out to my sister. She wasn't available. I kept going until finally I got a hold of my wife, and she took me to the emergency room, and I went and got some psychiatric care after that, and I went and got residential treatment, and I still didn't get diagnosed with ADHD. I'm talking to a lot of really smart professionals. I don't know it's in me, and they're still not noticing it. And it wasn't until I saw like a meme or something, an infographic on, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not sure. I have it saved. And it was Misdiagnosis Monday is the title. And it breaks down 80, help me out here, ADHD inattentive, hyperactive. It's a Venn diagram. And then in the middle, you've got combined. And I'm looking at this infographic and I am seeing myself and my struggles. And the reason I ended up in that scary place on June 16th, and the reason it was taking me 18 years to finish an undergrad degree, and I almost failed out of high school, and all the things. It, like you said, it was the answer you didn't know you needed. Um, so I went into a research rabbit hole trying to figure out the. I work in finance, so the most cost effective, quality, reliable care I could find to try and get help. Because again, my quality of care up until that point had led me to a dark place. So after a ton of research, a month of research, in August, I came to ADHD Online, and man, was it easy. Like, the website's great, super user friendly, and um, it probably took me a few times to get through the assessment. I don't remember, and I think within a week, maybe not even, um, I had a diagnosis, and then very shortly after that, I had treatment.
I was going to joke and say, "Oh gosh, we haven't been recording this whole time. Can we start over?" I was like,
Take it from the top.
how do I break this amazing moment and make you feel safe? Because that's something that's really important to me, but also acknowledge how special I feel to be on the receiving end of your story, to feel this connection and to feel this trust and to know that we met
Mm-hmm.
and you're entrusting me and this podcast and my relationship with ADHD Online to share your story. And I'm blown away by your resiliency, and I want you to really, on those tough days, because we all have them, it doesn't matter how good things are going, emotional dysregulation just will knock you on your butt.
Mm-hmm.
In that dark moment when you felt so hopeless, you also knew what was at stake and you
Mm-hmm.
did not back down. And that's not to say that people who follow through with a plan, I don't quite know the right language to use when we're talking about
That's okay.
suicide, but
We're doing our best here.
we're
We're
doing our
all learning.
best. Exactly. And it makes me think of the story that you read when you go across the Golden Gate Bridge, where they talk about the few people who have survived jumping, who the ones who have survived have said, I immediately regretted it. But there is that impulsivity that comes with this condition and hopelessness. And I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about what it felt like when you received your diagnosis, because I think you knew. You saw that infographic and you knew, and I felt the same way. And so getting the diagnosis was really just like, okay, I have the steps to move forward now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's everything that everyone I've been talking to, everything I've been reading about folks who have been diagnosed late in life, especially I've been doing a lot of reading and research on ADHD and girls and women and women diagnosed late in life, and everything I'm hearing is akin to, it's like I got a manual for my brain, right? I just finished a LinkedIn learning about ADHD in the workplace. And other people are just articulating it so much better than I can right now. it it changed my life. It started my life. It for me, what I need to do is know and understand myself in order to be able to confidently move forward and show up in a way that um, that feels like Emily and not masking. So it was it was absolutely life starting, and a switch flipped in me. So a lot of really crazy things have happened since I got diagnosed and since I started treatment. But one of the things that I'm really excited to share, which was a huge um, moment in my life, was how quickly the shift in my academic success happened. Um, like I said, I was working on an undergrad degree for 18 years. It was 4 or 5 different schools, can't count how many different majors, never knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up, and all the classes are just too hard and I can't do it. I'm not built for school, but I have this hunger for learning. I want to use my brain. And I started getting treatment, and I grew the confidence to register for classes. So I met with an advisor at Penn State Abington who saw these pockets in my motley crew of classes that fit into um, a degree, a letters, arts, and sciences degree. He saw psychology, he saw health, he saw business. And that opened a door for me to study more about myself. And I registered for public speaking first. That was a class I had taken and dropped 5 times previously and needed a permission slip to get into this time. And I did it. Not only did I do it, but I got 100 in the class. And I owe that to, yes, my tenacity and my resiliency. But I owe that to ADHD Online. And man, I wish I could remember that prescriber's name, that first practitioner from way back when. But I couldn't have gotten through that class without the help that I got in those first few months. Um, and then I scheduled all my other classes around what I wanted to learn about me and how I wanted to change the world. Um, and I was really close to finishing with honors, but then it, you ask for a divorce and you got to finish your undergrad all in a couple of months, and it's really hard. So I did reach the finish line. I'm so proud of myself. And I did it in what, 8 months? All my 400 level classes, all the stuff I've been putting off, the writing intensive, and I found joy in what I was doing for the first time. So my life has changed in many ways, and that's one that I'm most excited about.
You should be. You should be
Yeah.
so proud of yourself. And I want to just, you mentioned you did this LinkedIn workshop, and you mentioned that, people are articulating it better than you are. But I see you practicing it, and I want you to know that there are people who learn that way, who see people and are looking at them as an example. And your story will come. You'll learn how to tell it more comfortably. You'll feel more comfortable doing it, but like you're living it right now. And
Yeah.
truly, that is such a powerful message. And I'm so happy that you have found kind of this rebirth. Like in the best and worst ways, it feels like a rebirth. And I say
Mhm.
this, you mentioned going through a divorce, and there are times where you have this monumental, eye opening experience. And for you and I, it was a later in life ADHD diagnosis that put all of our comorbidities into focus and really made us understand what was behind it.
Mhm.
And it is a hard journey to go on by yourself. It is even harder to do it and bring people along with you. And that is such an important thing to acknowledge, because I think sometimes we go, oh, everything is supposed to stay the same and I'll just be the one that changes. And
Mhm.
that's not always the case.
No, no, I had to, um, after the conference, I just sent my ex a text. We're still working through the divorce. It's very amicable. She's a beautiful human. Um, it just, it just didn't work. Um, and I'm realizing it didn't work because of ADHD, because of undiagnosed ADHD and the struggles that brought to my life. Um, so yeah, it's tough to see a 7-year marriage end because of something I didn't even know. Um, but Lindsay, you said um, something like second life, right? And that's exactly what I'm living. I am stepping out into the world, um, and I'm learning more about myself every single day, and I'm standing taller, and I'm confident in the decisions that I'm making. Look at me, I'm sitting up straighter. The more I talk about it, um, I know that divorce was right for me, because it wouldn't have gotten me to where I am today. Um, and I know that I am making all the right steps in my life right now. Um, but it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. And I think the more I talk about it, um, the more other people come out of the woodwork. And again, strength and connection. I'm getting so much support from so many people, just in finding my emotions and being vulnerable for the first time. This is a practice. I'm not well seasoned in this at all. So thank you for your patience, kindness, and guidance.
Oh my goodness, you are incredible. You're doing incredible.
But yeah, to my second life, I did a lot of selfies with a lot of people at the ADHD conference because it's my thing, name face recognition. When I'll throw this out there for all of our listeners, hot tip: when you make new connections and you're saving that contact information in your phone, grab a selfie, save it as their contact photo, send it to them. They can have that as your contact photo as well. And then you're remembering these humans, not just for the wonderful connection, but for their faces too.
I love
Um,
that. I'm in the phase of seeing people I haven't seen in 20 years,
mhm.
now that things are opening back up and we're being more social. And I'm just acknowledging that it will take me too long to dig through the boxes in my brain to get to the name. I can tell you everything we've ever done together, how we know each other, our mutual friends, like probably your, like cocktail of choice when we were 22 years old.
Okay, I'm
I can
jealous of your working memory.
I can't remember your name. So I just roll up like real confident. Hey, it's Lindsay. Yeah, like you just break the ice, cuz honestly being a human is so hard that like taking the embarrassment or the shame out of it and just like cutting that whole awkward part, like
Hmm.
do you ever feel like, because, and I don't want to say we wasted time because that makes it feel like everything that we did to get here was wasted.
Hmm.
Would I have liked it to have been easier? Absolutely. I feel like we are more aware of what holds us back.
Yes.
and why we feel certain ways. And I think you touched on this a little bit with school when you were younger and not opening up about what was happening. It's the people pleasing side. We don't want to ruffle feathers. And I kind of feel like you get this later in life diagnosis and you start realizing that the only person who will put you first is you.
Hmm.
And we have spent our whole lives not doing that.
Yes. 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 And yes. Um, yeah, I was kind of launched into a parental role at 12 years old. Um, so the people pleasing, that resonates really hard with me. And um, I've never put myself first. I didn't know I needed to. I thought that um, by helping others, I was doing good. And I didn't see how much that was tearing me down. Um, yeah, sorry. I
No,
lost it again. ADHD brain.
every podcast about ADHD should just come with a disclaimer at the beginning that if you are neurotypical, come into this with patience because it'll be a wild ride, but I
Hmm.
promise you at the end, you'll be happy you came on it.
Can I share one more little tidbit?
Of course.
Okay, first of all, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 right now is the time on 11/22/22. All that feels very good.
I love that.
Good number vibes right now. A second ago, I apologized for something unnecessarily, and I would like to
Retract
share.
that? Would you want to, do you want to rewind?
No, I don't want to rewind. I want to use it as an opportunity to share something. When I was in residential treatment, um, as a method to try to help the beautiful community of women around us break that habit of apologizing for everything so unnecessarily. When we would hear it, we would say quack. So I'm going to quack myself and I'm going to ask that we ripple the quack and hold each other accountable. We don't, I, I'm not sorry for my existence. I'm proud to be here. I'm awkward. The words aren't always going to come out in the right order or the right way. I might offend you, but I'm here to learn.
You used the quack on me and you I said I was sorry about something and you quacked me and I was like, "Oh, the Mighty Ducks? Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about the Mighty Ducks?" Cuz that is where my ADHD brain goes because being from Minnesota, you have a favorite Mighty Ducks movie
Quack,
and you are
quack,
very
quack, quack.
very committed to that. Anyway, it made me laugh because then you shared that and I think it's great and I do think we're so quick to use that, especially when people ask us to do something or even things like, "Hey, do you want to get dinner tonight?" and you're busy or you don't want to go and we apologize. And it is so ingrained and breaking it can be so hard, but it is very liberating when you start changing the language.
Because think about it, it's not just an apology, it's the guilt you carry around with you too, right? We've got to release that. I just started reading a book. Um, I read a couple select chapters for my health psychology class and just loved the writing style and the information. It's Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And now I got excited talking about the book and forgot why I was bringing it up. Can you bring me back, Lindsay, or we'll just move
We
forward?
we were talking about apologizing and using the language and saying the words "I'm sorry," and when we start to stop, we
Mm-hmm.
let go of the guilt and the shame
Guilt.
that comes with
Yeah,
it.
the guilt, right? So in Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, it talks about stress and the load that that takes on your body in a really plain talk way. Um, And I feel that. I don't know if you do, but like I feel the stress and burden of 37 years of people pleasing and not putting myself first. And um, I feel the rest that my body needs. Um, so, yeah, if we can break the cycle of apologizing unnecessarily and let go of that guilt and let our bodies just come back to homeostasis, man, life is big and beautiful and long and just, I'm excited. I'm just excited.
I love that. I love that energy that you're putting out there. And I think it's so important to remind people that it's never too late. It's never too late to live a better life. You
Mm-mm.
know, it's really easy to sit in the puddle of grief and sadness and the what ifs, but it's pretty amazing to know what's possible moving forward. And I would rather take that than continue on the path I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, when you look back and you're kind of examining how ADHD was coming up in your life, and I think the thing that is so interesting is the more I talk to people, the more I realize some of the things that I didn't even realize were connected to ADHD are actually connected to ADHD. And so I'm curious if there's been something that stands out as maybe one of those that doesn't just like jump to the top of the ADHD symptoms list.
Hmm. First thought was um, my memory. I have been so hard on myself about my memory, and I've had no hope. It's like, that's it. If I don't do this right now, I'll never remember to, and it'll never get done. And it's, oh, my mom's calling me. I should have told her that I'm recording this podcast right now. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Um,
Your memory.
my memory, yes. It's
Which,
not
but
me, it's ADHD, and I
but
can work with it.
but it's hilarious that this happened as your mom was calling, because it's just this reminder of it's not necessarily our brains, it's how many things our brains are focusing on at one time.
Yes, yes, I just learned at the conference because, again, I have a baby brain. I just got diagnosed in January. I put my head down, I finished school, I relocated to a different state, and now my head's above water. Water, sorry, that was masking. I'm from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and I say water. And I'm learning about myself, and one of the things that I learned is inattentive doesn't mean we don't pay attention. Inattentive means we're paying attention to so much. Our brains are interested in so much. It's a pinball machine, and it's exhausting. And the knowing, that not just the knowledge, it takes everything. It takes pills and skills, right? So a combination of treatment and my own jumping in and educating myself, and trying to find practitioners who specialize in my areas. It's just been so eye-opening, and yeah, I just want to keep learning more and sharing my knowledge with the world.
And I'm so excited that you are, because the more we talk about it, the less there will be of us in 30
Mm-hmm.
years. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
I know. I
I
know. Don't you
want,
just want to like go into schools right now
yes, so
and
much so.
like just chat with some kids
Yeah.
and pick their brains and see who that little Lindsay is and who that little Emily is and just give them resources?
So much so you have no idea. And I think the one thing we don't talk about with this is it's not just us being affected. You get diagnosed later in life, and there are people around you who feel guilt for
Mm-hmm.
not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're carrying that and you're like, no, please, please, you didn't know. And it's this game. And it's like, if we can actually address it when it's happening, think of what that's going to do for families. You think of all of the issues that happen in a family that are caused by stress. And then you
Mhm.
think of how undiagnosed ADHD contributes to stress. And it's this really awful cycle. And we're letting down everyone by not doing a better job
Mhm.
of educating people, of having the resources in place, and of making it okay.
Yeah, I one of the speakers um, from the conference was very vulnerable. She's a doctor who specializes in these things, and um, has a family member who suffered for a long time silently with ADHD. And this person just shared the guilt that they felt because they didn't notice. And it it made me think of my own family and the people in my lot in my life who might be feeling that guilt right now. Like I've got people coming in with messages because I'm pretty vocal online about my adventure with ADHD, and I've got people apologizing, saying they're sorry they didn't notice it. And I just want to say, can we please all throw guilt out the window? I am not blaming anyone for anything. Yes. Could it have been noticed sooner? Were there signs? Absolutely. Is it genetic? Could this have occurred because of um, things with my parents or the environment or whatever? Yes. But I'm not looking back and pointing fingers. I've got no ill will towards anyone. I'm looking forward for solutions, and I want us to all come together and learn, see how this is affecting all of us, and just step up and do something about it, because we are losing lives to this. We're losing lives because this is a silent disability and people don't know it's in them because we don't know enough about it. So, all that to say, Mom, when you're listening, I hope you don't have any guilt because I've got no blame. Let's just keep learning together.
Oh, man. Damn you, Emily.
Sorry.
No, no, no.
Quack, quack,
Yes,
quack.
quack. I love it. Yes, yes. Let's move to the positive,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
moving forward into the future is exciting and energizing. And I want to know, when you look ahead, what is getting you up in the morning?
changing the world. Um,
And I know you mean that genuinely, and
yeah.
it's so
I know
refreshing to hear.
I say such big things, but like, I do mean it. Knowledge is power, and I know more about this thing now. And I found a brave space, and I'm comfortable coming up and telling my story. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to learn more. I'm getting up in the morning because I want to use my ADHD superpowers to dive into a research rabbit hole on ADHD and mental health, and find a way to prevent any more suicides from happening because of any of this. Neurodiversity, behavioral health, physical health. I get up in the morning every day excited to learn more and use all these things I'm learning about myself. Um, I just shared a poem with you earlier today. Um, and that's something I'm excited about because it's new. ADHD unlocked creativity in me. And my poetry is a form of therapy for me. I write about my experience, and um, And then I share it with people. And again, I can't stress enough like how new that is for me. Emily, she didn't emote. She kept it all in. I've got all these walls. I have to be perfect. And no one needs to know all the struggles I'm going through. And creativity came out and allowed me to express myself and share it with other people. And that's just been so cathartic. We need an entire episode on things I'm excited about because of ADHD.
I actually have thought about doing a spin-off each week where it's just you bring someone on to talk about their latest hyperfocus, like
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes, like
Mm-hmm.
what are you really into right now and tell me everything you know about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like just to feed the like 10-year-old in us who like just wanted to talk to people all the time. And we
Mm-hmm.
were told, you talk too much, you're too loud, you need to be quiet. And we just were like, okay, we won't talk ever. And now we're like, oh my God, we can talk and we can talk about things and be excited about them. And every time I see a woman who's younger than me who is themselves, I'm just going to say that. I thank the lucky stars that someone didn't get to them, because I think about how many times I can look back and it's kind of like I see my confidence building and I see myself finding my footing, and then I see someone coming in and pushing me back down, and I would get back up again because I have really big goals and I
Mm-hmm.
have I my life, and I feel like you will get this, it's illusions of grandeur with everything, with dinner, with a home renovation project, with my career. Like it is literally like, what is the most intense, highest accomplishment I can do? And then I am going to do everything I can to get there. And so I would get back up and I'd get going, and then I can see exactly who it was and where they would come back in. And I'm not spiteful. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, yes, sometimes in a joking manner. But I will say I had this idea when we were in Dallas where I was like, oh, this would be a great Kill Bill inspired TV series where you just sought revenge on the people who like shit on you in life, you
Let's
know?
go.
But like not in a like Kill Bill style. Like I'm not going to be like a sword wielding vigilante, but just in a like, I'm going to come in and check out to make sure you're a good human now as an
Mm-hmm.
adult, because we all have mistakes. I think we've all played the villain in someone's life at one point or another. It doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. That's how life happens.
Yeah.
But I joke that I'm like, oh, there could be a good series about helpful vigilantes. I don't know. You just like
Oh,
joke.
no. Okay, so I am 100% on board with you. Um, and I want to share two things and we'll see if I remember both of them. Um, I'm the complete opposite to you when it comes to goals. I don't know how to set them. I don't know how to follow through with them either. Like I never had that big lofty, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be when I grow up. I never had that beacon of light um, until now, until after I got diagnosed and after I started getting treated and finding better tools to make life work for me and how I show up. Um, and like I said, I struggled a lot academically. And one of the episodes that needs to be on this show, Netflix, are you listening? We've got great ideas. Please reach out. Um, you're in high school, it's junior year, you're thinking about college. I don't know what I want to go to college for. I just know I want to get out of Delaware County and, you know, be a first generation graduate and set that example for my little sisters and for the rest of my family. So it's, time to go and get your college recommendations and all that. And I go up to my science teacher. I don't remember what kind of science it was, but like that was always a subject I was curious about. And I think I had like a C in the class, and that was good for me. And I asked her if she would write me a college recommendation, and she said no. And she said, honestly, I'm surprised you're even still here. And I would love an episode around that so I could go back, not in a Kill Bill way, but in an education way, just to say, hey, here's how I was showing up. I just found out about it now myself. And I think sharing this knowledge with you will help us both and create a ripple. So it's okay you didn't give me the recommendation then. It's okay.
It's not,
That
though.
that gave me fire in my butt. No, those words hurt.
Yeah.
I'm working on that in therapy.
You're okay. You will be okay, but it's
Yeah.
not okay.
Yeah.
This mentality of how adults treat children. We
Hmm.
are children. We were
Yeah.
children. Even when we turned 18 and we were graduating, we were children. And I have very similar moments with adults in my life who I trusted. And because you were enjoying the class and you were showing up in a way that I'm sure you were engaged during class, but for whatever reason, schoolwork was difficult. Like, you weren't on paper what they were looking for. And you made yourself vulnerable and put yourself out there, and to have someone squash it in that way. There's so many other ways it could have been handled.
Hmm.
And I'm genuinely so sorry that you had to pick the pieces up from that, because I would bet you didn't tell anyone about that at the time.
No. No. Who am I going to tell? That's embarrassing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And at the time, you would say it to other people and be embarrassed for yourself, and they would be embarrassed for you.
Hmm.
We are at a point now where we hear that and we're embarrassed for the teacher because we know
Yes.
better and we would not behave that way.
No. So we need to keep speaking up, and we need to be the voices that the Lindsays and the Emilys and the everybody needs to hear. Because it's not just us.
Empathy and understanding go a very long way. And I think the one thing that is so important is really just busting down this idea that there is one way to learn, that there is one way to live a life, that there's one way to have a relationship. All of these rules that were set by people who are no longer on this earth, like, we need to have the confidence to make our time on this planet what we want without worrying at all about what anyone thinks. And it is so hard. It's so easy to say it, but it is so hard.
It's impossible. How do you even figure out what you want exclusive of
Oh
what
God, it changes
everyone's
every day.
exclusive of what everyone's telling you you're supposed to be doing? There's so much noise. And yeah, with ADHD, how do I figure out what I want to do when I want to do everything?
Literally everything. It's a
Literally all
problem.
the things.
You mentioned some of the tools that you have added into your life to make living with ADHD a better experience.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those things?
Yeah. So pills and skills. Um, it started with the skills because the diagnosis came later. So, in treating the comorbidities, I learned a lot about CBT therapy. I don't want to use jargon. Let me back up. I learned a lot about cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy, and all these uh, $10 words that really mean um, self-compassion and understanding yourself, and um, finding tools to make life work for you. Remind me the question again.
The tools that you've added in.
Yeah,
And
the tools I've
well,
added in.
so I
So,
want to ask really quick, because you mentioned self-acceptance.
mhm.
Do you feel like what you are learning is helping quiet that negative voice in your head when something goes wrong? You used to immediately bad self-talk. Do you
Yes,
feel like just even acknowledging that it happens changes things?
absolutely. Um, One of the practices that I've been trying really hard is noting. So, noting when I am practicing negative self talk, because it takes a lot to unpack 37 years of that. So now I try to note it and acknowledge it ain't me at ADHD, and it can be a superpower. So, how can we reframe this? So, yeah, just kind of learning to coach myself has been a tool. Building self awareness has been a tool. Talking to other people about how I show up in the world has been a tool. Um, and then medication, Adderall and medical marijuana. I could not get through school, work, life these past since January. I could not have accomplished what I've accomplished. I could not show up here today this articulate and vulnerable without medication and all the skills that I've built. And it comes back to um, going to the psychiatric hospital after the emergency room. Um, that was my first sense of I'm a part of a community that's been othered, and I've even othered this community. You know, I was scared to go to a psychiatric hospital. You see it on TV and in movies, and boy, I don't want to be strapped down and all the things, right? I'm scared. And man, was it good to be around a community of people who are struggling right alongside of you and just want to feel better. And I wasn't going to go to any of the group therapies. I was going to isolate in my room because I'm not going to talk. I'm too shy. I'm going to sound dumb. But I went. I showed up, and I was a fly on the wall at first. And all the people around me sharing their brave stories and all of their coping skills, I learned so much. And I learned inspiration to find my own voice. So, community has been huge for me. Um, and going back to the conference, right? Like, I've been telling everybody, anyone who will listen to me right now, um, that conference changed my life. That conference, that community, the knowledge I gained, for the first time in my life, I know and feel that I belong on this earth and I have a purpose. And I see and feel my own intelligence. That's never happened before. I couldn't have had it if I didn't take a bet on myself, uh, take some PTO, put this conference on credit, and say, we'll figure it out. I need this. I need this for me right now. So I just want to thank you. And I want to thank ADHD Online. And I want to thank every single human I interacted with and who listened to me and who hugged me and just showed up. You know, we should all be proud of ourselves for showing up and paying it forward.
It really highlighted the importance of community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I didn't attend any of the actual workshops or sessions or keynotes, but that's not why I was there.
Well, you got 2 weeks to do them online because it was a hybrid conference. Let's go accessibility.
I do love that part of it. I just felt like every time I saw someone or interacted with someone new, there was just an immediate connection. And I think leading up to the conference, I was stuck in middle school and I was like, no one's going to talk to me. And finally, my partner, who's very neurotypical, said to me, do you really think those people would show up there? And I've just had that experience in life that it hasn't mattered where I've been. I have run into those people.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? If they are, they shouldn't be. And I, for the most part, had such a lovely experience. I am so thankful for being in that safe space and getting to feel like I could be myself. And that also included setting boundaries and knowing when I was at capacity and
Hmm.
taking care of myself. And for the first time, not worrying about FOMO and being like, yeah, I am really wanting to be here, but I'm also exhausted. And I know that I've got a lot on the plate tomorrow. And that felt good too.
Yeah. And then knowing that the people around you understood that and you're not being judged for not showing up and there's no ill will. Everybody understood.
There was a point where I was like, so and so hasn't texted me about what they're doing tonight. And then I was like, oh, yeah, they all have ADHD.
Yeah, right.
You're like, oh, it's not me. It's not me. And then, of
It's
course,
not me, it's ADHD.
and then, of course, the text did come in, and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" But you're like, you just like revert back to that little insecure person who was
Hmm.
just. It typically isn't just one time. It typically happens a lot through life, and I
Yeah.
think working through that is really powerful.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. It's not easy getting diagnosed late in life. We're starting over. We're learning who we are. We're learning what we need, and we're learning how important it is to speak up and open your mind and your heart and share your story, share your experience, and the support will come. We saw it, Like how full is your cup right now?
So full, but I'm in the early stages of feeling like, how do I replicate that at home? Which has happened
Mhm.
before. This is not new. I knew it was going to happen. It's the post vacation
Mhm.
blues. And you're like, how do I wake up every day and feel the way I felt? I felt unstoppable.
Mhm.
And so it's working on acknowledging that, because I know it happens. I know it happens frequently, and just taking it step by step.
So what are you doing to maintain that community?
I'm working on cutting out some of the things in life that have been holding me back.
Mhm.
And I knew this before the conference, but I also knew I didn't have time before the conference to really do that. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking at this week as an opportunity to clear out some of the things that there's attachment to for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And when people ask for help and I have the ability to take it, actually doing that. So,
Mhm.
what about you?
I joined ADA.
Okay.
I'm a member of ADA now, and I went hard on enrolling in support groups. I went to my first one last night. It was Healthy Habits, and are you surprised if I say what a lovely community? I learned so much. I can't wait to go back next week. Um, there's so much support out there. I joined a community for queer and non binary people with ADHD. I joined a community for beginners with ADHD. Um, I'm just going to keep going. Oh, real prideful moment, real quick. How was your flight home?
It was fine.
I'm really happy with my flight home.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to be productive. I just met so many people. I have all of these random phone numbers in my phone, all these pictures of people. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to spend $9 on the Wi Fi and I'm going to spend this flight reaching out to all the people in my phone, saving their contact information, and strengthening these connections. And I didn't even notice we took off. I was hyper focused. I looked to the right of me at one point. I don't know. And it's like, oh, we're in the air. Okay. But I did it. I reached out to every single person whose phone number I had and was so proud of myself for getting it done. And we're continuing lovely conversations and still supporting each other.
Well, I'm so proud of you for getting it done. I had a mini win for myself was getting home, and immediately on Monday morning, when I didn't have a plan in place and started to feel anxious about, oh my gosh, what is the most productive way to spend my day, which of
Mhm.
course is how we all get started. And I said, you know, you don't have a plan right now. So have some coffee, eat some food, make a to-do list, and get your laundry going. And the laundry was done and put away. And I was like, God, that felt good. How do you bottle that up for next Monday? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, exactly. Proud of you because that conference took a lot out of us.
Oh,
So to be
yes.
that productive on a Monday, hello.
Thank you. I
Cheers
appreciate
to you.
that. Yeah. Yeah. I want to end with the question that I've asked everyone as we've been doing these Refocus Together conversations, which is if there was one thing that you really wish we could change around the narrative with ADHD, big, small, not known about, whatever it is for you, what is that moving forward?
It's different for everyone. And we won't know what works unless we talk about it. So I think to change the narrative, we have to do exactly what you're doing. We have to continue these conversations. We have to educate ourselves. We have to encourage the people in our lives to educate themselves as well so that we're not um, the sole source of their knowledge. Um, Information is power. The only way things are going to change is if we get to know how this is impacting the individual and curate care, support tailored to them. Because this is not something that we can just do a broad sweeping brush stroke and air quotes fix. This is, I'm living with ADHD for the rest of my life. Let's get to know it and make it work because I know it's a superpower.
I'm laughing at the everyone is different because I had a very funny moment at the conference where I realized that there are people who have ADHD who are always early. I happen to be someone with ADHD who is always late.
I
And
pride myself on my punctuality.
I love that for you. It was very noticeable in the fact that the gym was very busy very early in the morning, and I was not going to work out. I was trying to find a foam roller. I wanted that's all I wanted, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized, oh, it's the gym is full. There are people who love this.
Wow.
And then when I set up interviews with people, the people who would be waiting at the booth 10 minutes before they were supposed to be, and then all of a sudden I would, am I late? I'm
Nope.
no, you're early. I'm not even late yet, and I'm feeling anxious. But it was just very funny because I was like,
Don't
didn't
y'all know you have ADHD and you're supposed to be late? You're supposed to have
didn't
forgotten about
yes,
this?
I didn't know you all existed. No, I'm teasing, but it is. It
I'm
really is
here. I'm
all.
here and I'm queer and I'm organized.
I love it. I love it. Well,
But not my thoughts or my notes.
no, but organization is different for everyone.
That's another episode.
Oh gosh, yes. Emily, it was a delight to hear more about your story. It was even better to meet you in person. I'm so glad that we waited and waited till the conference had ended so we could actually sit down and talk. I feel like we would have both just been like, what else is happening outside the rooms?
Yeah, you're
So
right.
I truly am so grateful for your vulnerability and your strength. And I want you to walk away and be really proud of yourself because I know it's super hard sometimes to feel it because we like to just not lift ourselves up. So
Hmm. I'm feeling proud. I'm feeling proud.
good.
That, that I'm sharing my pride poem with anyone who will listen. You got to show up and be proud of yourself for all the hard work you're doing. Lindsay, big love to you. Can't wait until the next time I can give you a great big hug.
I can't wait as
And thank
well.
you for being a trailblazer. Like, I couldn't do this. I wouldn't have this platform if you didn't stand up first. So thank you for sharing a story that I saw so much of myself in. And thank you for bringing me in and giving me a space to hopefully reach someone.
You will. You have. You already have.
Let's save lives.